Welcome back. The big news last week from the High Court was that they will take up California's ban on same-sex marriage. In that case, it could give the justice the opportunity to rule on the following question. Can states ban same-sex marriage, or does the Constitution protect that right for all couples regardless of sexuality? Now, the court will also decide whether Congress can deprive legally married gay couples of federal benefits available to married people. A provision of DOMA, or the Defense of Marriage Act, limits certain benefits and tax structures to just heterosexual couples. Same-sex marriage is legal, or will be soon, in 9 states. Now, advocates on both sides of the issue, they think that the High Court, hey, it's a good thing that they're taking up the case. Chad Griffin, president of the Human Rights Campaign, said, "I fully believe that the court's going to come down on the side of freedom and equality." Meanwhile, groups that oppose same-sex marriage also want the Supreme Court to take up the case. Brian Brown, president of the National Organization for Marriage, said the court does not want another Roe v. Wade where the court steps in and imposes its will in the whole country, especially when you have 31 states who voted on this issue in overwhelming numbers to support traditional marriage. This thing really, you could argue, could go either way. All right. The general sense was, when the High Court took it, supporters of same-sex marriage, they were doing cartwheels, but they said, hey, it's fantastic here, especially when you look at some of the folks that were behind it, from Ted Olson to David Boies, that there was this movement. And we've seen all the headlines were that new states were coming on. But overall, when you look at the numbers, it's pretty 50-50 right now for the general population. And the number that that gentleman, Mr. Brown, just quoted was right. 31 states out of the 50 don't have same-sex marriage. Historically, Richard, the court doesn't go against prevailing public opinion, or if it's in the middle, doesn't go in and throws it one way or the other.
Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Brown v. Board of Education, the country was not pro-integrated schools. So you've got 3 outcomes here. You have the narrow outcome, which is likely to be that the federal government can't force legally married gay couples to pay higher taxes. And that's that's one of the cases. They're legally married. Because of the way the federal government's working, they're assessing the surviving spouse at a higher rate than they normally would. I think that's a no-brainer. Then there's the other extreme, which is the court says there's no constitutional basis for a state to distinguish between gay people and straight people with respect to the ability to marry. That's going to be very close. It's going to be 5-4 one way or another. It's going to be the conservatives being sex police, 4 of them at least, and Anthony Kennedy being the swing. And then there's the middle, which is that they're going to permit it where states permit it,
basically states' rights,
and turn it into a state issue.
It is interesting. First of all, people were surprised they took up Gian-Carlo both cases here, because they could have just looked at DOMA. Right. But then when they took up Prop 8, now they're looking at the whole thing. And they still could split the baby when it's all said and done. I think Richard articulated rightly the 3 different cases. But you just get a sense that we know where this issue's going generationally. Every time you poll this issue with a 2-year, let's say, interregnum, each time you poll it, it goes up a few more points where people support it. And younger people, almost regardless of politics, I mean, obviously it goes more one way, but overall, younger generation doesn't see the big deal about same-sex marriage. I was a little surprised the court took it.
I'm not an attorney, and I'm not going to play one on
TV. There you go. I knew that was coming.
But here's what I will say, and that is that I don't believe, I have enough faith in this court, its ideological makeup notwithstanding, that whatever ruling they hand down will be one based in the Constitution, based on legal precedent, based on facts, etc. I don't think that the popular opinion, fluid as it may be, as you just described, is going to have influence over how this court rules. I think this court will make a serious, pardon the pun, take a serious judicial look at the facts, at precedent, and they'll rule accordingly. I mean, as much as it pains me to agree with Richard, he's right about the inequity when it comes to DOMA and how that impacts financially couples who are legally married in one state. That has to be addressed one way or the other. So I think there are real, tangible, concrete issues that the court has to rule on. What worries me is if you do have this dichotomy where federal law says one thing and states say another. I just think that's not good for the country as a whole, and I hope on this issue eventually we can come together.
It's going to be very interesting. I think Richard articulately expressed the potential outcomes But I don't think this is a Supreme Court where we can say guaranteed this is what they're going to do anymore. We thought that with health care, and all of us,
exactly right.
you know, so I think they're going to look at these cases on the merits. I think if you support gay rights in general, you're optimistic that your day has come, but I don't know.
There's no reason for optimism, and there's no reason for pessimism. It's you're doing the psychology of one human being, Anthony Kennedy, and you could guess right or guess wrong. It is.
Although you did have Roberts last time surprise you as the
In a
fluid
big
guy
way.
in the room. Nobody thought at the end of the day he was going to support health care.
Fifth, and
Me
not
too.
Roberts.
Yeah.
Roberts made essentially an institutional political decision, which saved the court and the country. Having said all of that, this is not over yet. Don't
No. And
don't
I
take
do.
it to the
We
bank.
should know. They say roughly around June we'll get a good idea. And I think almost as interesting, well, not as interesting, but I do think interesting in this is that they chose to take not just one but both cases. It seems like a court who definitely wants to have its imprint on history. All right, we're going to take a quick break. But when we come back, we're going to bring you the first installment of our special series, Surveillance Nation. You may not realize it, but almost every aspect of your life has become public and accessible at a moment's notice. We're going to show you how it happens a lot of times without your knowledge. Plus, a new debate out that I think every one of us will have an opinion on. Stay with us.